My sister shoved my phone aside at Thanksgiving dinner and laughed. "Hobby for losers," she said, loud enough for everyone at the table to hear. The room went silent. Nobody knew that 4 hours earlier, my painting had just sold for $12 million at Christie's. I'm Emma Torres, and before you think this is some overnight success story, let me take you back to where it all started. Because the truth is, my family's been telling me I'm wasting my life since I was 8 years old. If you're enjoying this already, hit that subscribe button. By the end of this story, you'll see why walking away from toxic people isn't cruelty, it's survival. Growing up in the Torres household meant understanding your place in the hierarchy. My dad worked as an accountant for a mid-sized firm in suburban New Jersey. My mom was a nurse at the local hospital, working the night shift more often than not. They were good people, hard-working people, the kind who believed in practical choices and steady paychecks. Then there was Madison, my older sister, 3 years older to be exact, and about 1,000,000 miles ahead in my parents' eyes. Madison was everything they wanted in a daughter. Straight A student from kindergarten through high school, perfect SAT scores, full ride to a state university, MBA with honors, marketing executive by 26. She checked every box on the successful daughter checklist. And then there was me. I was 8 when I won my first art competition. It was a district-wide contest for elementary school students, and my painting of our backyard in autumn took first place. I remember running home with the blue ribbon, so excited I could barely breathe. I burst through the front door, waving the ribbon like a flag. Mom, I won first place." My mother looked up from the paperwork she was sorting through at the kitchen table. She smiled, that tired smile she always had after a night shift. "That's nice, honey. That's really nice. Can we hang it on the fridge?" "Sure, sweetie." She turned back to her papers. "Oh, before I forget, Madison got straight A's again this semester, all 5 classes. We're so proud of her." I hung the ribbon on the fridge myself. It stayed there for 3 days before it got buried under Madison's honor roll certificate. That was the first time I learned the pattern. My achievements were nice. Madison's were worth celebrating. By the time I was 14, I'd figured out what I wanted to do with my life. I wanted to paint, not as a hobby, not as something cute to do on weekends, but as my life's work. I saw the world in colors and shapes that other people seemed to miss, and getting those visions onto canvas felt like breathing. I approached my parents after dinner one night, clutching a flyer for after-school art classes at the community center. They cost $150 for a 12-week session. "Dad, can I take these art classes, please? They teach oil painting and—" "Emma, honey, we can't afford to waste money on hobbies right now." He didn't even look up from his laptop. "Madison needs new textbooks for her AP classes." "But Dad, it's not a waste. I'm really good at—" I said, "No, Emma." His tone was final. "Maybe when we have some extra money. Right now, we need to invest in things that matter." Things that matter. The phrase echoed in my head for weeks. I took babysitting jobs that summer and paid for the classes myself. When I showed my parents the first oil painting I'd completed, a portrait of our neighbor's dog that had taken me 6 weeks, my mother patted my shoulder and said, "That's lovely, dear. Very therapeutic for you." Therapeutic, like it was art therapy instead of just art. 4 years later, I was 18 and sitting in the guidance counselor's office, clutching acceptance letters from 3 art schools. Rhode Island School of Design had offered me a partial scholarship. It wasn't a full ride, but it was something. I came home that day ready to celebrate. Madison was already there, home from college for spring break. The whole family was gathered in the living room. "I got in," I announced, waving the RISD letter. "Rhode Island School of Design. They even gave me a scholarship." There was a beat of silence. Then Madison laughed. Not a mean laugh, not yet, just amused. "Art school? Em, seriously? What's wrong with art school? Nothing if you want to be broke and homeless." She was sitting on the couch, scrolling through her phone. "Artists don't make money. That's just a fact. You should go to a real college, get a business degree or something practical." I looked at my parents. My dad was shaking his head slowly. My mom looked worried. "Emma, honey," Mom said gently, "we just want you to be able to support yourself. Art is wonderful, but it's not a career. It's something you do for fun." "It is a career. People make livings as artists." "Sure," Madison interjected. 1% of artists, maybe. The rest wait tables and pretend they're going to make it big someday. Is that what you want? To be 35 and still struggling? Madison's right, Dad said. We're not trying to crush your dreams, Emma. We're trying to help you be realistic. You can always paint on the weekends. I went to RISD anyway. I took out student loans, worked 3 part-time jobs, and paid my own way through every single semester. When I called home, conversations were brief. They'd ask how school was, I'd say fine, and then they'd talk about Madison's internship at a Fortune 500 company, or her new apartment, or her promotion. The summer I was 22, I graduated summa cum laude with a BFA in painting. It was one of the proudest days of my life. I'd worked myself to exhaustion for 4 years, creating a senior thesis collection that my professors said was remarkable and emotionally devastating in the best possible way. Madison graduated with her MBA the same spring. She graduated with honors, too, and my parents threw her a massive party. 30 people, catered food, champagne. They rented a room at a country club. For my graduation, I got a card in the mail with a $50 check and a note that said, "Congratulations, honey. Sorry we couldn't make it to the ceremony. Dad had a work thing and Madison's party was the same weekend. We're proud of you." It was right then, sitting alone in my dorm room that had been stripped bare except for my suitcases, holding that card, that I felt it fully. The realization that had been building for years finally crystallized into something concrete and painful. I wasn't loved less. I was just loved differently, abstractly. The way you love a distant relative you see once a year. They cared about me in theory, but they didn't care about me. My dreams, my passions, the things that made me who I was. That was the moment I stopped trying to make them understand. And it was the moment I decided I'd prove them wrong, but I'd do it quietly. So quietly, they'd never see it coming. The next few years were brutal. I moved to Brooklyn because that's where you go when you're a broke artist who still believes in yourself. I found a studio apartment in Bushwick that was really more of a closet with a hot plate. 600 square feet, no natural light, walls so thin I could hear my neighbors' phone conversations. Rent was $1,800 a month, which might as well have been $18,000 given what I was making. I worked as a barista at a specialty coffee shop in Williamsburg, the kind of place where a latte cost $7 and came with a leaf design in the foam. I worked the opening shift, which meant I was up at 4:30 every morning to be there by 5:30. I made lattes for tech bros and finance guys who didn't look at me when they ordered, just barked double espresso while typing on their phones. At night, I bartended at a wine bar in Park Slope. That shift ran from 7 p.m. to 2 a.m. I'd get home around 3, fall into bed, sleep 4 hours, and start over. In between, I painted. Every spare moment, every day off, every hour I could steal. I painted in my apartment, standing at an easel I'd bought secondhand for $50. I painted women's faces mostly, women who looked tired, women who looked invisible, women who looked like they were screaming silently behind calm expressions. I called the series Invisible Woman. It felt right. During this time, family dinners became something I avoided. Madison had gotten engaged to a guy named Brad who worked in finance. Brad was fine, boring as hell, but fine. He wore expensive suits and talked about market volatility at dinner. My parents loved him. One Thanksgiving, I made the mistake of coming home. I was 25, exhausted, running on 3 hours of sleep and too much coffee. Madison spent the entire meal talking about the promotion she'd just gotten. VP of Marketing, 6-figure salary, corner office, stock options. Then she turned to me. "So, Emma, still painting?" The way she said it, like it was a phase I hadn't outgrown yet. "Yeah, I'm still painting." "That's nice. Have you thought about getting a real job, though? You know, with benefits and stuff? You're not getting any younger." I wanted to throw my wine glass at her face. Instead, I smiled. "I'm fine, Madison. Thanks for your concern. I'm just saying Mom and Dad won't be able to help you out forever. I don't take money from them." "Oh." She looked surprised, then almost impressed. "Well, good for you, I guess. Still, it must be hard, barely scraping by. Brad's bonus this year was more than most people make in 3 years. We're thinking of buying a place in Westchester." I left early that night, claiming I had an early shift the next morning. I sat on the subway back to Brooklyn, watching my reflection in the dark window, and felt something shift inside me. Not sadness anymore, not even anger, just cold, clear determination. They thought I was failing. Let them think that. I'd let them believe whatever they wanted while I built something they couldn't even imagine. The turning point came on a Tuesday afternoon in October. I was at my barista job, mindlessly making a cappuccino, when a woman walked in. She was in her 60s, elegant, wearing a black coat that probably cost more than my entire wardrobe. She ordered a cortado and sat down at a corner table with a sketchbook. I noticed her watching me during my break when I pulled out my own sketchbook. I was drawing quick portraits of customers, just keeping my hand warm. When I looked up, she was standing next to my table. "May I?" She gestured to the seat across from me. "Sure." "I'm Helena Chen," she said, extending her hand. "I'm a curator. I work with MoMA, among other places." My heart jumped. "Emma Torres. I make coffee." "And you draw." She gestured to my sketchbook. "May I?" I slid it across the table, trying not to shake. She flipped through pages slowly, her expression neutral. Then she looked up. "Who taught you?" "Mostly self-taught. I went to RISD, but your line work is extraordinary. It's raw but controlled. Emotional but precise." She closed the sketchbook. "Do you have a body of work? Finished pieces?" Yes, I paint, mostly portraits. "I'd like to see them." 2 weeks later, Helena came to my apartment studio. I'd tried to clean up, but there was no hiding how I lived. Unmade futon in the corner, mini fridge covered in paint stains, canvases leaning against every wall. She spent 45 minutes looking at my paintings in complete silence. I stood there, sweating through my shirt, convinced she hated everything. Finally, she turned to me. "Emma, these are good, really good. The technical skill is there, but more importantly, there's a voice, a perspective. You're painting something true." "Thank you," I managed. "Have you shown anywhere?" "A few group shows, small galleries, nothing major." "That's going to change." She pulled out her phone. "I'm going to introduce you to some people, but first I want you to meet my artist collective. We're having a meeting Thursday night. Can you come?" That Thursday, I walked into a loft in Dumbo that probably cost $10,000 a month. 20 artists were there, sitting on paint-stained couches, drinking cheap wine from plastic cups, talking about technique and theory and shows they'd seen. For the first time in my life, I was in a room full of people who spoke my language. Maria, a sculptor from Mexico, took me under her wing immediately. "Don't let anyone dim your light," she told me that first night. "Not critics, not galleries, and especially not family. Family are the worst about it." "Why do you say that?" "Because they knew you before. They can't see who you've become. They're still looking at the person you were at 15, and they can't reconcile that with who you are now." Over the next year, Helena introduced me to gallery owners, collectors, and other curators. She got me into group shows at legitimate galleries in Chelsea and the Lower East Side. My style evolved. I started combining abstract expressionism with contemporary portraiture, creating these layered images where you had to look closely to see all the faces hidden in the brushstrokes. My first solo show was at a small gallery on the Lower East Side. It was 8 paintings, all part of the Invisible Woman series. Helena helped me price them, between $5,000 and $8,000 each, which felt insane to me. They all sold, every single one, on opening night. I stood in that gallery drinking champagne that actually tasted good, watching people I didn't know discuss my work with genuine interest, and felt like I might float away. One of the buyers was a tech CEO who'd paid $8,000 for a painting I'd created while sitting on my floor at 2 a.m., eating cold pizza. I didn't tell my family. Madison had posted on Facebook that same week about a work event she'd attended, tagging herself at some rooftop bar with the caption, "Celebrating success with my amazing team." I scrolled past it and said nothing. Let her have her rooftop bars. I was building something bigger. By the time I was 28, things were moving fast. Helena introduced me to Richard Blackwell, who owned one of the most respected contemporary galleries in Chelsea. Richard was British, brutally honest, and had an eye for talent that bordered on supernatural. He'd represented artists who'd gone on to have work in the permanent collections of major museums. He came to my studio on a gray afternoon in March. I'd moved by then, upgraded to a real space in Gowanus, 1,000 square feet with windows and everything. Rent was $3,000 a month, but I could afford it now. Barely. Richard walked the perimeter of the room, studying the 15 paintings I had in various stages of completion. He didn't speak for 20 minutes, just looked, occasionally stepping closer to examine brushwork or stepping back to see the whole composition. "Tell me about your process," he finally said. "I start with photographs, usually candid shots of women I see on the subway or walking in the city. Then I paint them in layers. The first layer is abstract, just emotion and color. The second layer is the face. The third layer is details that complicate the image. Sometimes I add text, sometimes other faces, sometimes just texture." Why women? Because we're so often looked at but not seen. Everyone has an opinion about how we should look, act, exist, but no one asks who we actually are underneath all that. He nodded slowly. "I see something in your work, something raw and true. It reminds me of early Basquiat, that same urgency, that need to say something important." My heart was pounding. "Is that good?" "It's very good." He turned to face me. "I want to represent you, Emma, exclusively. I think you're going to be important." Important? Important, as in museum collections, major collectors, career retrospectives. But we need to be strategic. No more small galleries. We're going to build anticipation. Over the next 2 years, Richard was as good as his word. He got me into group shows at major galleries, always positioning my work next to established artists. He introduced me to collectors, tech billionaires, hedge fund managers, celebrities who collected contemporary art. He got me a studio visit from a curator at the Whitney. My prices climbed. $10,000, then $25,000, then $50,000, then $100,000. Each time, Richard assured me the market would bear it, and each time, he was right. I was 30 when my painting sold for $200,000 at a small auction. It was a piece from my Invisible Woman series, one I'd painted 3 years earlier. The buyer was a major collector whose name I recognized from articles in Art Forum. That night, I sat in my studio, my real studio now, 1,500 square feet in Industry City with soaring ceilings and north-facing windows, and cried. Not sad crying, relief crying. The kind of crying that comes when you realize you were right all along, even when everyone told you that you were wrong. I still didn't tell my family. Madison had gotten married by then. Big wedding in the Hamptons, 300 guests. I went because my mother begged me to, and I didn't want to hurt her. I wore a dress I'd bought at a consignment shop and sat at a table with distant cousins I barely knew. During the reception, Madison's maid of honor gave a speech about how Madison was living the dream, amazing career, perfect husband, beautiful house. I left before the cake was cut. The texts from Madison became less frequent after that, which was fine by me. Occasionally, she'd send a message. "Mom says you're still doing the art thing. That's cool." Or, "Saw a painting at a restaurant that made me think of you. Still painting too?" I'd respond with short answers. "Yep, thanks. Busy with work." She had no idea that work meant flying to Art Basel in Miami, that my paintings were being installed in corporate headquarters and museums, that collectors were on waiting lists to buy my pieces. She had no idea that I was making more in a year than her 6-figure salary and Brad's combined. And I liked it that way. By the time I turned 32, I was in a different stratosphere. My work was in the permanent collections at LACMA and SF MoMA. I'd been featured in Art Forum, Art in America, and had a profile in Vogue's art issue. Richard had me on a strategic plan, limited releases, carefully chosen exhibitions, building mystique. "You're at an interesting inflection point," he told me over lunch one day at Balthazar. "You're established enough to be taken seriously, but young enough to still be exciting. This is when we make the big move." "What big move?" "Major auction, Christie's or Sotheby's, contemporary art evening sale. If we play this right, you could be the youngest artist to break $10 million at auction." $10 million for a painting. It felt absurd. I'd spent years barely affording groceries, and now Richard was talking about 8-figure sales like it was inevitable. "Are you sure the market's ready for that?" "Emma, the market has been ready. We've just been waiting for the right moment." He leaned forward. I think we should offer Invisible Woman #1, the first painting in the series. It's iconic, it's emotional, and it tells your whole story. Collectors love a narrative. Invisible Woman #1 was the painting I'd created when I was 26, working double shifts and crying myself to sleep. It showed a woman's face layered over and over, each layer slightly transparent, creating this effect where she looked solid but also ghost-like. It was the painting that made sense of everything I'd been feeling, the sense of being present but unseen, real but ignored. "That painting is personal," I said. "The best art always is." We submitted it to Christie's for their November Contemporary Art Evening sale. The estimate was $8 to $12 million. 2 weeks before the auction, I got the call from my mother. Her voice was tired, sad in that way that made me feel guilty even though I hadn't done anything wrong. "Emma, honey, please come home for Thanksgiving this year. I miss you. You haven't been home in almost 2 years." "Mom, I've been busy." "I know, sweetheart, I know, but it would mean so much to me. Madison keeps asking why you never come around anymore." I almost laughed at that. Madison didn't miss me. She probably barely thought about me except when she needed to feel superior about her life choices. "I'll think about it," I said. "Please, Emma, just one dinner, that's all I'm asking." I was in Paris when she called, standing in my hotel room near the Marais, looking out at the lights of the city. I'd just come from a gallery opening where my work had been shown alongside Kehinde Wiley and Mickalene Thomas. I was living a life I'd never imagined possible. And my mother was begging me to come home for Thanksgiving. "Okay," I heard myself say. "I'll be there." "Really? Oh, Emma, thank you. Thank you so much." After we hung up, I texted Richard. "Christie's auction is Thanksgiving morning. If I'm at family dinner that night, keep the results quiet until I say otherwise." He responded immediately. "Understood, but Emma, this could be historic. You're sure you don't want to celebrate?" "I'm sure. Let them think what they want for one more night." "Your call. But for the record, I think you're stronger than I would be." The painting went to auction on Thanksgiving morning at 10 a.m. I was on a flight from Paris to Newark, somewhere over the Atlantic, when the bidding started. I turned my phone off before takeoff. When I landed and turned it back on, I had 47 missed calls. Messages from Richard, from Helena, from the Christie's PR team, from journalists at Art News and Forbes and the New York Times. I didn't listen to any of them. I just took an Uber to my parents' house in New Jersey, wearing jeans and a sweater, carrying a bottle of wine like this was any normal Thanksgiving. When I walked through the door, Madison was already there, holding court in the living room. She'd dyed her hair a lighter shade of blonde and was wearing a designer dress that probably cost $2,000. She hugged me briefly, the kind of hug that's more about the appearance than actual affection. "Emma, you actually came. We thought you'd forgotten about us completely." "Hi, Madison." "Let me see." She grabbed my hand, looking for a ring. "Still no boyfriend? That's okay. Focus on your career, right? I mean, your art thing." I forced a smile. "Yeah, focusing on work." That's good, that's good. You'll find someone eventually. I mean, you're only 32, still some time left." She patted my arm like I was a child who needed encouragement. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I ignored it. Dinner was set for 6 p.m. By 5:30, the whole family had gathered. My parents, Madison and Brad, my Aunt Carol, Uncle Mike, and a few of my parents' friends from the neighborhood. 15 people total, crowded around the extended dining room table that only came out for holidays. I recognized Patricia Morrison immediately. She was my mother's friend from book club, a quiet woman in her 60s who always dressed elegantly. I'd met her maybe twice before at other family gatherings. She smiled at me warmly when I sat down. "Emma, it's so good to see you again. Your mother says you're still painting." "Yes, I am." "How wonderful. What kind of work do you do?" Before I could answer, Madison jumped in. "Oh, Emma does these abstract things. Very artsy. I don't really get them, but she seems to enjoy it." Patricia's expression flickered with something I couldn't quite read, but she just nodded politely. There was also a younger woman I didn't recognize, maybe late 20s, sitting near the end of the table. My mother introduced her as Sarah, a neighbor's daughter who was visiting from New York. "Sarah's getting her PhD at Columbia," Mom said proudly. "Art history." Sarah and I exchanged smiles. She seemed nervous, kept fidgeting with her napkin. My phone buzzed again and again. I'd silenced it, but I could feel it vibrating constantly in my pocket. I excused myself to the bathroom and finally looked. 73 notifications, text messages, missed calls, emails, Instagram tags, Twitter mentions. Richard's text was at the top. Emma, 12.3 million, call me now. I stared at the screen. $12.3 million. My painting, the one I'd created in that horrible apartment while working myself to death, had just sold for $12.3 million. I was officially the youngest contemporary artist to break $10 million at a major auction house. I turned my phone face down on the bathroom counter, took 3 deep breaths, and went back to dinner. The meal started normally enough. My mother had outdone herself. Turkey, stuffing, 3 kinds of potatoes, green bean casserole, cranberry sauce, both jellied and whole berry, rolls, 3 pies. It was the kind of spread that said, I need this to be perfect. Madison dominated the conversation from the start. She'd just been promoted again, from SVP to Executive Vice President of Marketing. She had a team of 40 people under her now. The company was sending her to Maldives for their annual leadership retreat. It's crazy, you know? Sometimes I can't believe this is my life, she said, cutting into her turkey. Just 5 years ago, I was a senior manager, and now I'm literally running the entire marketing division for the East Coast. That's wonderful, honey, Dad said. We're so proud of you. Thanks, Dad. I just think it's important to set goals and actually achieve them, you know? Like, don't just dream about things. Make them happen. She looked at me when she said it. I pretended not to notice. My phone buzzed again in my pocket. I ignored it. So Emma, Brad said, clearly trying to be polite, how's the art world treating you? It's good, busy. Are you still doing shows and stuff? Yeah, here and there. Madison laughed, not unkindly, but not kindly either. Emma's being modest. She does these little gallery things in Brooklyn. Very underground, very cool. They're not all in Brooklyn, I said quietly. Oh, right. You did that thing in Manhattan last year, didn't you? That was cute. Patricia Morrison was watching me carefully now. Sarah, the grad student, had stopped eating and was also staring at me with an odd expression. Actually, I started to say, but Madison cut me off. You know what's funny? Emma has like 50,000 followers on Instagram. I was looking at her profile the other day. 50,000, that's almost influencer numbers. She picked up my phone from where I'd set it face down next to my plate. I reached for it, but she was already turning it over. Oh wow, your phone is blowing up. Popular today, huh? She was smiling, but there was an edge to it. There had always been an edge to everything with Madison. Let me see. Oh my God, 47,000 followers now. Did you buy these? Emma, did you buy followers? That's kind of sad. Madison, give me my phone. I'm just curious. How much does it cost to buy 50,000 followers? Like $50? Is that how you make yourself feel successful? The table had gone quiet. Everyone was watching. Madison, that's enough, my mother said softly. What? I'm just asking questions. Emma's so secretive about everything. She never tells us what's actually going on in her life. For all we know, she's broke and pretending to be successful on Instagram. My phone buzzed again in her hand. She glanced at the screen. Ooh, someone named Richard is calling. Is that your boyfriend? No, wait. She read the text preview that had popped up. Richard Blackwell Gallery. Oh, you work at a gallery. That's great, Em. Retail is honest work. Nothing wrong with that. I don't work at the gallery, I said evenly. Richard represents me. Represents you? Like an agent? She laughed. Emma, come on. You don't need an agent for hobby art. It's not hobby art. Okay, I'm sorry. Professional art. She made air quotes with one hand, still holding my phone in the other. But seriously, let's be real here. You're 32. When are you going to get an actual job? I don't mean to be harsh, but someone has to tell you the truth. Madison, my father's voice had a warning in it now. No, Dad, listen. I love Emma. She's my sister. But this art thing, it's been 10 years. 10 years of struggling, living in terrible apartments, working minimum wage jobs. At some point, you have to admit it's not working. You don't know anything about my life, I said. I know you're still renting. I know you don't have health insurance. I know Mom and Dad worry about you constantly. I have insurance, and I'm fine. Are you? Are you really? Madison leaned forward, and I recognized the expression on her face. It was the same one she'd worn when we were kids, and she was about to win an argument. Because from where I'm sitting, you're 32 years old with no savings, no retirement plan, no partner, no kids, nothing except some paintings that probably don't sell. My mother made a small sound of distress. Madison, please. Mom, I'm being honest. Someone has to be. She turned to me, and her voice dropped into something that was almost gentle, which somehow made it worse. Emma, I'm saying this because I care about you. Art is a hobby for people who can afford hobbies. You can't afford it. You need to grow up, get a real job, and stop pretending that painting pictures is going to lead anywhere. The words hung in the air. Hobby for losers, she added, almost as an afterthought. That's what Brad's sister calls it. She wanted to be a photographer, but she grew up and got a job in HR. Sometimes being an adult means letting go of childish dreams. I should have said something. I should have defended myself, told her the truth right then and there. But I didn't. I just sat there, feeling like I was 8 years old again, watching my blue ribbon get covered up by my sister's achievements. Patricia Morrison had gone very still. Sarah, the grad student, had her mouth slightly open, like she was about to say something but couldn't figure out how to start. My phone buzzed again. Madison glanced at it and laughed. Forbes is calling you now? What, did you enter a contest or something? She was about to say more when Sarah suddenly spoke up. Her voice was shaky but determined. Madison, do you know who your sister is? Everyone turned to look at her. What? Madison frowned. Of course I know who she is. She's my sister. No, I mean... Sarah swallowed hard. Do you know who Emma Torres is? Emma Torres who paints, yeah. Emma Torres the artist. The Emma Torres. Madison laughed again, but it sounded uncertain now. What are you talking about? Sarah pulled out her phone with trembling hands. I'm writing my dissertation on emerging contemporary artists who are reshaping the canon. Emma is literally in my thesis. Sarah's voice cracked slightly. She's one of the most important artists of our generation. The table went completely silent. That's ridiculous, Madison said, but she sounded less sure now. Patricia Morrison set down her wine glass very carefully. When she spoke, her voice was measured and clear. Sarah is correct. Emma, I was going to wait until dessert to say this, but congratulations on the Christie's auction this morning. You could have heard a pin drop. What auction? My father asked. Patricia looked at me, and I saw something like apology in her eyes. I bid on Invisible Woman #1 myself. I was outbid. The final price was $12.3 million. Madison's face went completely white. Dad couldn't seem to finish the sentence. $12 million? My mother's voice was barely a whisper. Patricia nodded. I'm on the board at the Whitney Museum, among other institutions. We've been following Emma's career for several years now. We're planning a solo exhibition for her in spring of 2026. She'll be our youngest solo show in 23 years. Sarah was frantically pulling up websites on her phone. Look, here's the Christie's listing. Here's the Art News article. It went up an hour ago. Forbes published a piece called Emma Torres Makes History, Youngest Contemporary Artist to Break $10 million at Auction. The New York Times tweeted about it. It's everywhere. She turned her phone around. There was my painting on the screen, the one I'd created in that terrible apartment while eating ramen and wondering if I'd made a catastrophic mistake with my life. Below it, sold $300,000. Madison grabbed Sarah's phone. She scrolled through article after article, her face changing from confused to shocked to something that looked almost like grief. This can't be right, she said. This is fake. She can't. It's real, Patricia said gently. Emma is represented by Blackwell Contemporary, one of the most prestigious galleries in New York. Her work is in permanent collections at LACMA, SF MoMA, the Dallas Museum of Art, and the Hirshhorn. She was featured in Vogue, Art Forum, and Art in America. Last month, she had a piece in Art Basel Miami that sold for $3.7 million before the fair even opened. My Uncle Mike, who'd been silent this whole time, let out a low whistle. Jesus Christ, Emma. My mother was crying, silent tears running down her face. My father looked like someone had hit him with a brick. Brad was Googling my name on his phone, his eyes getting wider with each search result. She's on the Forbes 30 under 30 list, he said, under art and style. It says here she's estimated to have net worth of… Holy shit. Don't read that, I said quietly. It was the first time I'd spoken in several minutes. Madison was still scrolling through Sarah's phone, reading article after article. Her hands were shaking. You let me, she started, then stopped. You just sat there and let me… What did you want me to say, Madison? You could have told me. You could have said something. I tried, multiple times. Every show, every article, every achievement. I told you. You never listened. That's not fair. Isn't it? I stood up slowly. Everyone was staring at me now. Remember when I got into the Whitney Biennial satellite show 3 years ago? I called you. You said, "That's nice, Em, but I'm really busy with this campaign launch." Remember when Vogue profiled me? I sent you the link. You texted back, "Cool, I didn't know Vogue did art stuff." I didn't know it was a big deal. You didn't ask. You never asked. You just assumed I was failing because that's what fit your narrative. My father found his voice. Emma, sweetheart, why didn't you tell us? We had no idea. I did tell you, Dad. I told you when I got my first gallery representation. I told you when my work got acquired by a museum. I told you when I was featured in the Times. Do you know what you said? You said, "That's nice, honey, but when are you going to get health insurance?" Mom was sobbing openly now. We were just worried about you. No, you were worried about what the neighbors would think. You were worried that I didn't fit into your idea of success. I looked around the table. I make more in a year than everyone at this table combined. I have health insurance, excellent health insurance. I have a retirement account. I own my apartment in Brooklyn. I own a car I've never mentioned because I didn't want to deal with the questions. I'm fine. I've been fine. But you were all so sure I was failing that you couldn't see what was right in front of you. Emma, please. Madison reached for my arm. I stepped back. Don't. Just don't. My phone rang. Richard's name flashed on the screen. I answered it, putting it on speaker. Emma, finally, where have you been? The press is going insane. CNN wants an interview. The Whitney wants to move up your exhibition. I have 3 museums in a bidding war for the next piece you finish. This is… Emma, are you there? I'm here, Richard. I'm at Thanksgiving dinner with my family. Oh, shit. Should I call back? No, it's fine. I'll call you tomorrow. Okay, but Emma, this is historic. You made history today. You know that, right? I know. You're officially in the record books. Youngest contemporary artist to break 10 million. The auction house is calling you the next Basquiat. Art Forum wants a cover story. This is everything we've been building toward. I know, Richard. Thank you. I'll call you tomorrow. I hung up. The silence was deafening. Madison was staring at me like she'd never seen me before. You're famous, she said. You're actually famous. I'm not famous. My work is respected. No, Emma, look. Brad was still scrolling through his phone. You're trending on Twitter. There are think pieces about your work and what it means for contemporary art. Someone started a petition to get you into the permanent collection at MoMA. You have a Wikipedia page. This is fame. I sat back down, suddenly exhausted. I didn't do it for fame. I did it because I love it. Because painting is the only thing that's ever made sense to me. Patricia Morrison spoke up again, her voice kind. Emma, I want to apologize. I should have said something earlier when Madison was being cruel. I was just so shocked. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You're one of the most talented artists I've had the privilege of watching develop. Thank you, Patricia. My daughter is 23. She wants to be an artist, but she's terrified. She thinks she has to choose between art and stability. Would you consider mentoring her? Just meeting with her once or twice. She needs to see that it's possible. I looked at her, this woman who'd been silent during Madison's attack but who was here now, asking for help for her daughter. I'd be happy to, I said. Madison made a sound that was halfway between a laugh and a sob. I can't believe this. I can't fucking believe this. All this time I thought… You thought I was a failure, I finished for her. You thought you were better than me. You thought your 6-figure salary and your corner office made you more successful, more worthy, more valuable as a person. Emma, I didn't mean… Yes, you did. You meant every word. Hobby for losers, you said. Not 10 minutes ago, you called what I do a hobby for losers. I'm sorry. Madison was crying now, too. I'm so sorry. I didn't know. How was I supposed to know? By asking. By caring enough to look past your own assumptions. By treating me like a person instead of a failure you had to tolerate at family dinners. My mother reached across the table toward me. Emma, honey, please, we love you. We've always loved you. Do you? I asked, and I was surprised to find I wasn't angry, just tired, so incredibly tired. Or do you love the idea of me? Because it seems like you only started loving me in the past 5 minutes, once you found out my work is worth millions. That's not true, isn't it? Mom, you missed my graduation from Recity. You missed my first solo show. You missed every important moment of my career because you were too busy with Madison's achievements. And that was okay. I made peace with it. But don't tell me you've always loved me when you've barely seen me for a decade. My father looked destroyed. We made mistakes. We didn't understand. But Emma, you're our daughter. You'll always be our daughter. I know, and I love you too. But love isn't enough if there's no respect underneath it. Sarah cleared her throat nervously. Emma, can I just say, your work changed my life. I was studying traditional art history, focusing on dead white guys from the Renaissance, because that's what everyone said mattered. Then I saw Invisible Woman number 7 at a group show 2 years ago, and it was like someone finally painted what I'd been feeling my whole life. That sense of being looked at but not seen, judged but not understood. You made me realize contemporary art matters just as much as old masters, maybe more because it's speaking to right now. I felt my eyes water. Thank you, Sarah, that means everything. Can I interview you for my dissertation? Yes, email me through my website. I'd love to talk. Madison was scrolling through articles on her phone and I could see her face changing as she read. Confusion, shock, and then something that looked like calculation. Emma, she said carefully, can we talk? Privately? No. Please, just 5 minutes. I want to apologize properly. You can apologize here. She looked around the table uncomfortable. I want to make this right. There's nothing to make right, Madison. This is who you are. This is who you've always been. You're not sorry you hurt me. You're sorry you were wrong. That's not fair. You know what's not fair? Working yourself half to death for a decade, achieving something extraordinary, and having your own sister mock you at a family dinner because she assumed you were worthless. Brad put a hand on Madison's shoulder. Maybe we should go. No, Madison said sharply. No, I need to. Emma, please, I'm your sister. We can fix this. We're not broken, Madison. We're just not close. We've never been close. Today just made that obvious. She stood up abruptly. Fine, fine. You want to be like that? Be like that. But don't act like you're some saint who did nothing wrong. You kept this from us on purpose. You wanted us to look stupid. I didn't want anything. I just wanted to live my life without being constantly told I was doing it wrong. Well, congratulations. You proved us all wrong. You must feel so superior right now. I don't feel superior. I feel sad and tired and ready to leave. I stood up and grabbed my coat from the back of my chair. My mother stood too, reaching for me. Emma, please don't go. Stay. We can talk about this. There's nothing to talk about, Mom. Not tonight, anyway. Will you come back for Christmas? I looked around the table, at my parents who looked gutted, at Madison who was crying angry tears, at Patricia and Sarah who looked deeply uncomfortable, at the rest of my family who'd been silent spectators to the whole thing. I don't know, I said honestly. Maybe. I need time to think. We're proud of you, Dad said suddenly. I know we haven't shown it, but we are. $12 million. Jesus, Emma, that's incredible. It's not about the money. I know it's not, but still. What you've accomplished? What I've accomplished, I interrupted gently, is exactly what I was accomplishing 5 years ago and 10 years ago when you all thought I was wasting my life. The work hasn't changed, just your perception of it. I walked to the door. Patricia followed me. Emma, she said quietly, for what it's worth, I've been collecting art for 30 years. I've watched careers rise and fall. What you have, that raw talent combined with genuine emotional intelligence, it's rare. Don't let tonight diminish what you've built. Thank you, Patricia. And I meant what I said about my daughter. She needs to see that it's possible to choose passion and succeed. Email me, I'll set something up. I walked out into the cold November night. It was barely 7 p.m., but it was already dark. I stood in my parents' driveway looking up at the stars barely visible through the suburban light pollution and felt something shift inside me. Not closure exactly, but clarity. My phone buzzed, a text from Maria, my fellow artist from Helena's collective. Saw the news, holy shit, drinks tonight? I smiled and texted back, not tonight, tomorrow. Another text, this one from Helena. My brilliant girl, I knew it the day I met you in that coffee shop. Call me when you're ready to celebrate properly. I got into my Uber because yes, I owned a car, but I'd taken a car service here to avoid questions and headed back to Brooklyn. The driver tried to make small talk. Been visiting family? Yeah, Thanksgiving dinner. How was it? I thought about that for a moment. Complicated. He laughed. Aren't they all? When I got home to my apartment, the beautiful 2-bedroom in Park Slope that I'd bought 2 years ago, the one with hardwood floors and huge windows and a dedicated studio space, I poured myself a glass of wine and sat by the window. My phone was still blowing up. Messages from collectors, curators, journalists, other artists, people I'd gone to school with who suddenly remembered I existed. I turned it face down and just sat there in the quiet. The next morning, Madison called. I let it go to voicemail. She called again and again. Finally, she texted, Emma, please, can we just talk? I want to apologize for real. I stared at the message for a long time before responding. I'm not ready yet. When will you be ready? I don't know. She called again. This time I answered. Emma, please, I need to explain. Madison, stop. But I want to make this right. You can't make it right. Not right now, maybe not ever. Don't say that. Her voice broke. You're my sister. You're my only sister. Then you should have treated me like one. I did. I was just trying to help you see reality. No, you were trying to make yourself feel superior. There's a difference. Silence on the other end. Madison, I need you to understand something. The problem isn't that you didn't know about my success. The problem is that you didn't need to know about it to treat me with respect. My worth as a person shouldn't depend on how much money I make or how prestigious my career is. I know that. Do you? Because from where I'm sitting, you only started caring about me the moment you found out I was worth millions. That's not true. Then why did you call my life a hobby for losers? Why did you mock me in front of the entire family? Why have you spent the past 10 years treating me like an embarrassment? She was crying now. Because I was worried about you. Because I didn't want you to end up broke and struggling. No, Madison. You were worried about what my choices reflected on you. You were worried that having an artist sister made you look bad to your corporate friends. That's not... It is. And until you can admit that, we can't move forward. I hung up. She texted immediately. Please don't cut me out of your life. I stared at the message. Part of me, the part that was still that little girl desperate for her older sister's approval, wanted to forgive her immediately, wanted to say it was fine, water under the bridge. Let's start over. But I wasn't that little girl anymore. I texted back, I'm not cutting you out, but we're not close and we won't be for a while. You need to sit with what you did, with who you've been to me, and I need space. How much space? However much I need. Over the next few weeks, my parents called regularly. My mother cried every time. My father kept saying, We're so proud of you, honey. We just wish you'd told us. I had the same conversation with them that I'd had with Madison. I did tell you. You didn't listen. We'll do better, Dad promised. We'll come to your next show. We'll be there. Okay. Okay, that's it? What do you want me to say, Dad? I'm glad you'll come, but it's been 10 years. It's going to take time to rebuild trust. We understand. But I wasn't sure they did. Madison tried a different approach. She started commenting on all my Instagram posts. Supportive comments, congratulatory comments, sister pride comments. It felt performative. Then she posted on Facebook, so proud of my incredible sister, Emma Torres, record-breaking artist. Always knew she was destined for greatness. With a photo of us from 15 years ago. I almost commented, did you? Because that's not what you said at Thanksgiving. But I didn't. I just blocked her on Facebook. She texted, why did you block me? Because I don't want you performing our reconciliation for your friends. I wasn't performing. I'm genuinely proud. You're proud because it looks good. That's not the same thing. Christmas came. My mother begged me to come home. I said no. Emma, please, it's Christmas. Family is supposed to be together at Christmas. We'll try again next year, Mom. I need more time. I spent Christmas in my studio, painting. I was working on a new series about family dynamics, about the invisible hierarchies that exist in every household, about scapegoats and golden children and the roles we're assigned without asking. Patricia Morrison visited 2 days after Christmas with her daughter, Melissa. Melissa was 23, nervous, carrying a portfolio of her work. I can't believe I'm meeting you, she kept saying. I've been following your career since I was 19. We spent 3 hours looking at her work, talking about technique and vision and the business of art. She was talented, raw, but talented. My parents want me to go to law school, she told me. They think art is too risky. It is risky, I said honestly, but so is spending your life doing something you hate because it's safe. Patricia smiled sadly. I was on her side until I saw your work, Emma. Then I realized some people are meant to be artists the same way some people are meant to be doctors or teachers. It's not a choice. It's who they are. Thank you for that, I said. Thank you for meeting with Melissa. You've given her something I couldn't. Hope. On New Year's Eve, I got an email from Madison. Not a text, an email. It was long. Emma, I've been doing a lot of thinking. I've been in therapy for the past month, working through why I treated you the way I did. My therapist says I have a lot of insecurity around achievement and comparison. She says I was projecting onto you. I don't know if that's true, but I do know I was wrong. Not just wrong about your career, but wrong about how I treated you as a person. You deserved better from me. You deserved better from all of us. I can't take back what I said at Thanksgiving, but I want you to know I'm working on myself. I'm trying to understand why I needed to tear you down to feel good about myself. It's not fair to you, and it's not fair to me either. I don't expect you to forgive me. I just wanted you to know I'm trying to change. Love, Madison. I read it 3 times. It was the most honest thing she'd ever said to me. I wrote back, I'm glad you're in therapy. I think that's good for you. I'm not ready to have a relationship yet, but I appreciate you being honest. Keep working on yourself. Maybe someday we can try again. She didn't respond. For once, she just let it sit. Spring came. My Whitney exhibition was announced. The press coverage was massive. Youngest solo show in decades. History-making artist. The next big thing in contemporary art. My parents called to congratulate me. Can we come to the opening? Dad asked. Yes, but Madison can't. Emma, she's your sister. Dad, I said yes to you and Mom. That's already more than I've given in months. Don't push. Okay, we'll be there. The opening was in March, a cold night with rain threatening. The gallery was packed. Collectors, critics, other artists, celebrities, people I'd never met who'd flown in from other cities just to see the show. My parents arrived early, looking nervous and out of place in their suburban clothes. My mother wore a dress she'd probably bought at Macy's. My father wore a suit he'd owned since the 90s. Emma, Mom whispered, is this all your work? Yes. There are so many people. I know. They walked through the exhibition slowly, stopping at each painting. I watched them from across the room. They lingered longest at Invisible Woman No. 3, a piece I'd painted right after that terrible Thanksgiving when I was 25. When they came back to me, my mother was crying. Emma, I had no idea. I mean, I knew you were talented, but this, she gestured around the room, this is extraordinary. Thank you, Mom. I'm so sorry, she said. I'm so sorry we didn't see it. We should have believed in you. You should have believed in me even if I'd failed, I said gently. That's what unconditional love means. My father hugged me tight. We'll do better, I promise. I know you'll try. Patricia was there with Melissa, who'd just gotten accepted to an MFA program. Helena was there with Maria and the rest of the collective. Richard was there, beaming like a proud parent. Sarah, the grad student, was there taking notes for her dissertation. And right at the end of the night, when most people had left, Madison showed up. She stood in the doorway looking uncertain. Our eyes met across the room. I walked over to her slowly. Hi, she said. Hi. I know you said I couldn't come, but I couldn't not come. Emma, this is incredible. Thank you. Can I look? I nodded. She walked through the exhibition alone. I watched her stop at each piece, reading the titles, studying the brushwork. When she got to Invisible Woman Number 1, the painting that had sold for $12 million, now on loan from its collector, she stood there for a long time. When she came back, her eyes were red. I understand now, she said, why you paint what you paint. I see myself in these, the way I made you feel. Good. Can we? She stopped. No, never mind. I don't deserve to ask. What? Coffee, sometime. Maybe, when you're ready. I looked at my sister, really looked at her. She'd lost weight. She looked tired. She looked, for the first time in our lives, uncertain of herself. Maybe, I said. Not yet, but maybe. She nodded. That's fair. That's more than fair. She turned to leave, then stopped. Emma, I really am proud of you. Not because of the money or the fame or any of that, because you didn't give up. Even when we told you to, even when I told you to, you believed in yourself when nobody else did. That's real strength. Thank you, Madison. She left. I stood in the empty gallery, surrounded by paintings I'd created from pain and isolation and stubborn determination. My phone buzzed. Another article, another interview request, another opportunity. I thought about that 8-year-old girl with a blue ribbon, so desperate to be seen by her family. And I thought about who I'd become, someone who didn't need their validation anymore, who'd built a life on her own terms, who'd proven that the only opinion that really mattered was her own. You did it, Helena said, walking up beside me. You really did it. We did it, I corrected. I couldn't have done this alone. No, Emma. You could have, you would have, because this, she gestured at the paintings, this was always in you. Some of us were just lucky enough to help you let it out. 6 months later, I did have coffee with Madison. It was awkward, halting, full of long silences and careful words. She told me about her therapy, about the things she was learning about herself. I told her about a new series I was working on, about forgiveness and moving forward. I don't know if we'll ever be close, she said. Not like sisters are supposed to be. Probably not, I agreed. But maybe we can be something else, something real instead of performative. I'd like that. We're not there yet. Maybe we'll never be, but we're trying in our own halting way. My relationship with my parents is better. They come to my shows now. They've learned to ask about my work without making it about money or success. They're trying to understand who I am instead of who they wanted me to be. It's a process. It's ongoing. Some days are better than others. But here's what I learned. You can't wait for other people to believe in you before you believe in yourself. You can't let their doubts become your doubts. You have to do the work, put in the hours, create the art. Even when nobody's watching, even when everyone says you're wasting your time, even when you're exhausted and broke and wondering if they might be right. Because success isn't about proving people wrong. It's about proving yourself right. And when you do, when you finally achieve what you set out to achieve, the validation you get from yourself will mean more than any amount of praise from people who doubted you. That's what nobody tells you about making it. The sweetest part isn't the recognition or the money or the fame. It's looking in the mirror and knowing you didn't give up on yourself, even when it would have been easier to quit. So if you're out there right now working on something everyone says is a waste of time, keep going. Your blue ribbon might get covered up by someone else's achievements, but that doesn't make it less real, less valuable, less worth celebrating. Sometimes the best revenge isn't making them see how wrong they were. It's building a life so full and meaningful that their opinion stops mattering entirely. Thanks for watching Emma's story. If you've ever been told your dreams are just a hobby, remember this. Your worth isn't determined by people who can't see your vision. Keep creating, keep believing, and subscribe if you want more stories of people who prove the doubters wrong. See you in the next one.